entertainment there was this legacy business, and you're seeing it change now as Silicon Valley comes in.
Yep.
The ethos of legacy, entertainment is we've created this incredibly eccentric business where and you need an agent and a manager and a lawyer, and they're going to take about 60% of what you pay, but without them, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
And you join the studio, and the studio will give you a deal, and you'll sit in your room.
Right.
It's the most inefficient way. Silicon Valley walked in, in the way that Elon Musk walked into Twitter and went how many people work here? 10,000. Make it 2.
Right.
So now that Apple and Amazon, they go in and they go, writer's room. Wait, you've got 14 writers and they're with you from start to finish on the production. Well, it's important for the writers to be invested. And then also we're showing them how they're on the page, because it's different about the page to the screen. They've got to understand how that works and understand how we interact with the props. And they're they can have 3 weeks and it's got to be on Zoom.
Yeah.
And you can have 4 of them.
Right.
They're changing the ethos into this. They're changing us from an analog business to a digital business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the schism, the earthquake that's been going through it. I can't function like that.
Yeah.
My writers, what?
Well, also it's across the business. Many comedy writers, my vintage or younger, have trouble getting work now.
Right.
And it's
these companies
it's changing radically. It's changing.
They don't believe in institutional knowledge.
Right.
That allows people to grow and get better and create more. What they believe now is the auteur system, which has always sort of existed within film and TV. And then this idea of ruthlessly efficient content factories,
right,
where what matters is the real estate and not the individual creative.
I think the problem, if I had to guess, would be that you can't explain what happens in a writer's room
mm-hmm.
to anybody who hasn't been in one.
Imagine a coffee clutch with a lot of Holocaust jokes.
Yeah. But, I remember...
That's a writer's room.
I remember on when I was on The Simpsons,
yeah,
and it was, fairly early days on The Simpsons. There was a lot of excitement, and a German film company came. This documentary film crew came from Germany, and the director wanted to capture The Simpsons writing room in action. So I'm sitting there with Swartzwelder and Jeff Martin,
right,
and, Myers and
the legends,
all these amazing people.
Yeah,
I'm sitting in this room, and they set up these cameras, and the guy was there, and he had the lens around his neck, and he's watching us. And what he saw was a bunch of guys saying, "All right, well, we need them into the scene." And it should be, and then it would be, Al Jean would be like, "We really should probably be Marge that takes us out." And be like, "Okay." And then there'd be this, and John Vitti would go, "What if?" No. And long silences, and the guy, and you could hear the equipment. And then at one point, the guy just went, "Can something happen?" And I'm like, this is writing. There's a famous story of, I think it's Harry Warner or something, walked past the writers, the area on the lot, and he didn't hear typewriters going. And he was like, "I better hear typewriters because those guys are getting paid." Well, a lot of writing is sitting and thinking and agonizing and eating a donut, and then there's this process.
People don't realize too that the idea, you're diagramming stories, in some ways it looks like a math problem. You're creating these kinds of tranches of A, B, and C storylines, and drawing lines and creating arcs, and it really is a little bit of beautiful mind craziness. You look at it and go, none of this seems to, but you're putting the Jenga pieces together.
Yeah.
And then in the edit later, the mistakes that you made with your original instinct can get corrected or shaved off. You know what was the biggest change for me in content creation was the invention of the Avid. When we stopped editing on those in the online rooms,
mm-hmm.
where if you fucked up, you had to go back to the beginning,
mm-hmm.
and you could start to manipulate things digitally in space. It was revelatory,
right?
Because it was how more your mind works. The technology of it had not caught up with the way that you spatially kind of see structure or plot or character or those things. When you had a tool that would allow you to work more in sync with how you think.
Right.
That was, because in the early days at MTV, I can remember we would do these bits, these parodies, and like get the little razor and cut the thing and put it through and tape it up and run it through again. Like it was.
You feel like Charlie Chaplin on the set of The Gold Rush.
Right. Yeah. It was. And we saw that transition.
I've always liked working with young people, because I'm a creep.
Right. You don't have to pay them. They're still in school. They'll work for credit. Oh, this will help me.
But no, there's like I'm very delighted by when I see young comedic talent that really makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I feel better. There's this cliche that that people in our stage are supposed to be looking at, young comedians and going, I don't think that's funny. Why in my day? And I've never felt that way. I feel like shit. Like the other night at the, Emmys, one of the Emmys parties, I ran into the writers that do Hacks, and I just stopped and said, you're doing such superb work.
Yeah.
And you started out with a great show, and then the other seasons each one's better than the previous one. I don't know how you're doing it, but I left feeling energized and better about things because I'm always happy when young people are killing it, because I think, I think Civilization's going to be okay. And I'm putting that all on the writers at Hacks.
But it reminds me of sort of the way that they look at athletics. Like when people go, you can't compare the football players of today to the legends. And you're like, right, the football players of today, like mediocre ones, would blow their fucking doors off.
Yeah.
Dick Butkus was great. These guys are running a 3.240. Like he wouldn't even know that they had gone past him. And I look at that sometimes with the content now that's being created by those young comics and all that. And I'm just like, they've leveled us up.
Yeah.
Like they really have. Like, people like to talk about, back in the old days, we really, that comedy was great. And you're like, well, it was kind of flat-footed and racist. But other than that, you're right.
Right.
No, I'm always impressed by, and especially like in the stand-up world, like the level that young comics come into it. And it's shocking. Like it's one of those things, like I see as my kids went through the college process, I was like, I wouldn't be able to get into college today. Like it
totally
makes me feel that way about the comedy clubs. Like, I would have to end up really being a bouncer.
I am. You'd be a great bouncer. You better leave. What are you going to do about it?
Nobody expects for you to hit them. Nobody expects for you to hit them low. Nobody expects that. You go right at the knee.
I think, you know what? I would love a comedy club where you and I are the bouncers. They're different sizes and both equally ineffectual. I'll hit you high and you won't feel it. And I'll hit you low and you won't feel it.
Who are the bouncers? It's Ren and Stimpy. They'll take care of it. No problem.